Addiction to Purpose with Riches in Recovery welcomes you to our audience. We hope that you enjoyed today's show and will join the discussion by dropping a review or comment. It would be tremendous if you would like, rate, and share our content, or even subscribe to our channel. Please be aware that not all conversations on the show are suitable for children. Additionally, we may talk about things such as sexual abuse, domestic violence, and drug or alcohol abuse. If you feel that these things may trigger you, please do not tune in. Finally, if you are a heavy daily user of alcohol or drugs and are considering quitting, please consult a medical professional for assistance. Welcome to the conversation. Hi, I just wanted to come on and just give a little bit of an update. The last few months of producing this show have been just absolutely phenomenal. It's been really rewarding to be here and share with you guys. And if you've been here since the beginning, thank you so much for being here. And if you're new, I'm just really glad that you've arrived. And I just wanted to say thank you. And I wanted to mention that we need your help. You know, if you've come to the show or if you've been with us and you don't subscribe, please do. And like, share, comment on YouTube. That would really help us out. If you could rate and review the show on Apple and Spotify, that would be incredible. And if you find us on Facebook and Instagram and you could join our pages, that would also help us out. It means so much for us to be able to share and for our guests to be able to share their stories with the world and to come to you with their experiences and put them out there, because the one thing that we've really learned in recovery is that our experiences help others. And I strongly feel that my experiences in recovery can help others in and out of recovery, because the truth is that as humans, we all experience a lot of the same things. You will see us make tweaks and improvements with the show as we grow as producers, as creators. And at the end of the day, I'm just so grateful to be able to produce this show, to get to do this and have the opportunity to be with you guys on a weekly basis. And I just really thank you guys. And I am so glad that this is part of my sobriety program. So thank you and keep watching. And I'm just so grateful. Thank you. Hi, welcome to another episode of Addiction to Purpose with Riches in Recovery. We're really happy to have you this week. I'm Rich G.
I'm Rich V.
And we are the Riches in Recovery. This week, we thought we would talk a little bit about money. You know, money in sobriety is something that can be a little bit of a tricky subject. A lot of us kind of, you know, run the wheels off in our addiction. And I know when I was full steam in my addiction, in my alcoholism, I really didn't know what to do with money. I was kind of all over the place with it. And when I got into sobriety, I still didn't know what to do with money.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so we're talking about some of what we've learned, some of the pitfalls, some of the things that we still need to learn, and some of the rewards that we've gotten.
I mean, we've got so much stuff between the two of us. You know, it's such a huge difference between sobriety and when we're in our disease. It didn't really make sense bringing another person in here, and because the more we think about it, there's just so much more and more to talk about on the subject, and so we don't really need an expert because, well, everyone's their own expert when it comes to handling money, when it comes to the difference between sobriety and being in your disease. It's because money is a huge thing in your life, whether you like it or not. And usually it's not. You know, none of us are really wealthy, especially, you know, coming off of being in the disease. When we first started getting sober, you know, it's like, where do I make this? How do I make this elusive stuff called money? And what did I do with all that I had?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's
no doubt.
Yeah. And so there's so much to it. And so we're going to hit on a bunch of different things, a bunch of different situations that have come up, and we think we've come up with a lot. But I know my bell's going to also go ding, 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 ding. I just thought about this too,
Sure.
So
Yeah, I mean, there is certainly, an opportunity for us to have like a financial advisor or something like that on the show. And there is a lot of expertise out there. In fact, I just was enjoying an episode of another podcast that I take in called The Hidden Brain. And they had a financial psychologist on by the name of Brad Klontz. And they did an episode called Rewrite Your Money Story. And so if you're interested in really going down the rabbit hole on something like that, I would totally recommend taking in that episode. It's a very different podcast than this one. It's a little more technical, very cerebral. But if you're interested, I will put that information for that podcast into the episode description on this. But some of the things that they talked about were money scripts that we play out in our head. And so we'll start off with kind of like talking a little bit about those and how maybe they've played a role for us, both in our addiction and maybe after. And so kind of jumping into that, the first one that they talked a lot about was money avoidance. And that's when you have a negative association with money, sort of the idea that, if you have a lot of money, you're greedy, and greed creates power issues and things like that. That's not really something that I ever had a problem with. It's usually...
I've accused others of having that.
Sure, absolutely, right?
I've never had the ability to have that myself.
Well, money of having greed and things like that, yes, but it usually happens in people who came from a place of lack, which, I certainly experienced in my life. But it usually is experienced by people who came from a place of lack, but they tend to avoid having money or associating with money, and they're not able to enjoy money when they do have it. And so that can be a negative way to have money play out in your life. Another one that they talked a lot about was money worshiper, basically overestimating how much money can bring you happiness. And that's something that I've definitely struggled with, both in my addiction and somewhat after, I started trying to get into sobriety. And for me, I think that played a role over the last 3 years as I was trying to get sober. For me, keeping a job that maybe was making me struggle with attaining sobriety. It was a high-paying job, and I was struggling with letting that go because of the money aspect of it, primarily.
I mean, that was pretty evident with you, too.
Yeah.
I mean, you really, the job was not something that you should have been doing when you're trying to get sober.
Yeah.
And, you just kept saying that, I have to have that job, though. I mean, if I'm going to make it in life, and continue to live the way I want to live, and my wife, I need to continue this job or come up with something that's going to be able to, make me that much money.
Right.
So this is something that has to happen. You know? And so that's a lot of pressure to build up on you, especially when you're newly sober.
No question. And I wasn't willing to get into acceptance that, that I could build my life in a different way. I wasn't willing to be in acceptance that I could rebudget and work without having that size of a paycheck. So in a sense, that
job was trying to kill you.
Yeah, in a sense, that was a form of money worship, and I had to evaluate and rewrite that script in my life. I didn't recognize at that time that was what was happening, but by listening to this podcast, I was able to kind of make that association. Another script that they spoke about was money status. So really using money to make you look good to other people. And, so it's all about the car that you have, the house that you have, the watch that you have, how you present to society is very important to you. And, you have to have money to do that. And both of those middle two, money worshiper and money status, really lead you to overspending, overextending yourself, credit card debt, things of that nature, which I also relate to because I certainly had and do have credit card debt that I'm working through, and I think that that's not uncommon for people when they get into sobriety, particularly early sobriety, and even later in sobriety. I know a lot of people who later in sobriety that they're looking at, using the 12 steps to work through some of their financial problems.
Absolutely.
Right?
There's definitely a 12-step program for that too. And a lot of these issues too. I mean, it's an ego thing, and it's fear, living in fear. It's just centered around money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you said it earlier, the whole keeping up with the Joneses thing. I think that that's a big thing in American society, particularly now with social media. You see these influencers and all of this stuff out on social media, and it makes everything look glamorous. And the fact is that a large percentage of that is actually advertising, right? It's actually promotion for that lifestyle, for that brand, for that person, that a lot of it may not even be factual, if you will. So it's really interesting to listen to this podcast. And then the last one that they spoke about was hypervigilance. And we were kind of talking before the camera started to record, but that's the classic Scrooge, that's the classic miserly, usually a person that would have come from little but gained a lot later in their life, and they're not able to let it go to the extent that they're not able to enjoy the money that they do have.
Mm-hmm.
They don't go on vacation. They don't, they live with, a car that's broken. They live with furniture that's broken. Even though they have the means to replace it and live more comfortably, they don't do it. And that's not even like, hey, they're just being wise with their money. That's a different person, right? That is a different, managing your money is a different person than hypervigilance. Hypervigilance is another way of actually being irresponsible with the money that you do have, because in a sense you're taking from your life and from your family by not correcting the things that you have the actual ability to do.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine having a big chunk of cash, and I mean, we're talking in that situation, someone who has a good deal of money, and then not knowing how to be of service with that money.
Yeah.
And being able to help others out, even their own family with it, but not knowing how to be of service was something that a lot of people really need. Unfortunately, the world revolves around, a lot of the world revolves around money, and being of service is such a great feeling, and I learned that going through recovery of how great service is, and that's if you have a lot of money, it just seems like hand in hand. What a great way to enjoy service to others with all this great money, but not having that clued into your head and just sitting on this pile of nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and not even just giving to others, but just not taking good care of yourself.
Yeah.
And
family.
That's and family. So anyway, like I said, that's not something. I don't have the technical or the degrees to be able to speak about this. So like I said, if you're really interested in going down that rabbit hole, I recommend maybe taking in that podcast or exploring it more. But so from this point forward, we'll really just kind of talk about our own experience in those things.
Okay.
But I did it's an episode that came out this week, so I just thought it'd be interesting to give it mention. And then
And who was that again? What podcast was that?
So the podcast is called The Hidden Brain. The episode was Rewrite Your Money Story with Brad Klontz, who is a financial psychologist and author.
Cool.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, because I wanted to check it out so I can go back and watch this, and so I can go ahead and get that information from you.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I'll put it in the show description as well. So
okay, good.
It'll be there for everybody.
Well, yeah, I wanted to talk about a couple of things that happened to me.
Yeah, let's dig into it.
Yeah, and I learned some lessons, and it's good stuff. I like to talk about good stuff, so. I'm an eternal optimist, and the more I'm sober, the more and more and more I am. Because, I just really learned how to love through sobriety, and so cup is half full kind of guy I am, aren't I?
Yes.
Yeah. But all right, well, one thing that was going on with me, I own a nice little place in town, and when I was in my disease, when I was drinking a lot, I had a bedroom. In my bedroom, the ceiling leaked like a sieve. Every time it rained, I leaked. I had 5-gallon buckets put around my bedroom and was set up, and it would leak. And I didn't feel I had the money to fix it. I didn't know what I was going to do. I had, during this point, at the very end, I'd been demoted at work. But before that, I was having a hard time making mortgage because I wasn't handling money properly. I was, buying a 30-pack of Bud each day. And then on top of that, all the stuff that goes with it on a daily basis. And, just spending money, just really not in a good way. When you're drunk all the time, you just sort of buy things that come around you. I don't need that package of cookies. I don't need this. I don't need that. But, I always had to make sure I had that 30-pack of Bud in my inside fridge, my outside fridge, whether I had the money for it or not. And so I was coming into the point where I was just barely making mortgage. And my plan was to go ahead and just stop paying my mortgage and waited till they kind of kicked me out of there. And I was going to save up enough money, and the person I was with, I was going to go ahead and move out with them and start my life over with that going on.
And you have your daughter at this time too, right?
Yeah, I had my daughter at this time too, a single father.
And how old was she? Like ballpark?
At that time, 14 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, but luckily it didn't leak in her room, so that was good.
Yeah,
just my room.
Right.
And when I finally got sober, I realized, then I got promoted quickly once I got sober because I had my stuff together pretty quick, and I realized that once I stopped spending all this money on beer all the time, and all the other stuff, I had a lot of money. I mean, it was an amazing amount of money more than I did. And then I found out I had a lot of equity in my home because I was able to keep my mortgage payments going. So I was able to get a home equity line of credit to get my roof repaired. And so get my roof repaired easily, and my home equity line of credit with that. And then I was able to go ahead and make the improvements around the house, the painting of the ceilings and all that sort of stuff. And so I was able to make my house livable. And so I went from living in fear, thinking that I'm going to have to walk away from this house, my ceiling, you know, pouring down every time it rained, and be living in fear every time I went to sleep. Is it going to be another hole that's going to start raining on my head this time? Is my ceiling going to cave in? Not knowing any of this, to having a brand new roof, to having that fear not being a part of my life anymore, and to be able to have it and be able to budget myself again, and being able to just survive and survive with having the money for groceries, with being able to take my daughter out to have a bite to eat sometime, and or someone else, a date or something like that. It was a whole different turnaround when it came to when I was drinking and to came when I became sober. Just because I wasn't spending the money incorrectly, and just taking the time to be able to think it through, be able to rationalize it, and being able to learn how to budget it. It was easy. And it leads me to the best thing, though, I was able to do.
Yeah.
So, a very talented daughter, and if you ever heard me talk about her on this program or anything like that, I really like to brag about her because it's a miracle I kept her alive, and a miracle that she's just an amazing person. I didn't ruin her. I don't know how I didn't, but she um, uh, very, very good singer, actress. A great in the theater world, and she in high school, she was in plays and musicals. That's what she did. She was in a different school that emphasized that, and she wanted to get a theater arts degree, and that's a 5-year degree. It takes a long time for it. Well, luckily she gave me a break. She went to the junior college for some of it, but then she wanted to go to university. And before, when I was drinking, there was just no flipping way that was going to happen. Well, I put aside the money that I was spending on drinking. I put that money aside, and I started saving that up for her to be able to put her through college. And in between, so between the money she got for scholarships and grants, and the money I saved uh, through not buying booze anymore and stuff that goes with it, putting those together, I was able to get her through college with only, I took some money out of my home equity line of credit, just a little bit though, and we were able to get her through college, and she was able to get that degree. And so right now she's one of the happiest people I've ever met. She's working in her field. I don't know how many people get a theater arts degree and actually work in their field. She's working in her field, making a living, and extremely happy person. But I was able to do that, because I got sober, and I learned how to budget my money and take care of things. And money was completely different. It's just, if you're out there and you're trying to get sober, and you're having money problems, and you're a newcomer and you don't know what it is, just hang in there, get sober, and it's gonna your mind is gonna start working correctly, and you're gonna realize that money's gonna come easier for you, because you're not gonna be spending it on on the alcohol anymore and stuff that goes with it, and you're not gonna be living in fear of money anymore. You're gonna be able to learn how to work with your money and mentally handle it, be able to balance things. And once you start learning how to not be in fear when you're handling money, but being um, oh, capable of dealing with the money in a productive way, then it's just life is so much easier. There's so much less fear in your life, and you become more productive. And yeah, it just works out really well. Really does.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you mentioned several times the kind of like all the extra side stuff, and there definitely is that, because
So much exercise stuff.
you're intoxicated, so you're not gonna cook, right? You're gonna order the pizza, or you're gonna go out to eat, or you're gonna hit the drive-through, and so then maybe whatever food you did buy in the fridge goes bad, right? So you've wasted that.
Oh, and then you went out to eat. Sorry to interrupt. You went
No,
out to eat, and your bill's huge because you're ordering drinks. You're
sure,
ordering alcohol.
yeah.
But then after that's, well, yeah, you can attest it. You worked in the industry.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, like we were kind of talking before the
Yeah.
show. First off, my wife and I, we don't go out to eat that often anymore. It's more of a special occasion thing now. And but yeah, the difference in the tab, between having I mean, even if we do go out for a nice steak dinner, there's not the $100 bottle of wine and the four cocktails and the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera to go with the meal. It's just the meal, and that makes a dramatic difference in the tab. But even just going out to eat just at McDonald's or whatever that you would do when you were intoxicated and just too lazy or don't have the gumption to go cook. Um, all of those shortcuts, not to mention that with how things are today, the frivolous purchases that you make on Amazon that you don't even remember making until they show up at your doorstep. That's guilty. It's like, things that you're like, I can do that. And then it shows up and it just goes in a room and you actually never do it. I mean, those are things like I have crap around here that is sitting here that was drunk purchased that I still have not done anything with, and that was just wasted capital, wasted
Yeah.
money that now I don't waste, so there are those things, and also guilty as charged that in sobriety I still will make a frivolous purchase here and there, and I'm getting better about it because I'm still like searching for that little dopamine release. So getting better
Sure
about
it is.
that because that's just something that happens. But
But it's more of a, I'm sorry to interrupt you
no, you're
there,
okay.
but you're making that purchase that's frivolous, but in your mind exactly where your bank account is.
That's true. That's true.
You know where it's at. You can afford it. It's frivolous, and maybe you could use that money for something else. But yeah, you can't afford it. It's not.
There's a judgment call happening.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's not living in fear of it, or purchasing it, drunk, and then all of a sudden it's, what did I buy? How much is that? And then boom, that's another fear that, I mean, you live in so much fear. You
No
live in
question.
so much fear when you're drunk, when you're in your disease, when you're hammered, when you're just and just adding that fear on top of everything else. I think, I mean, for me, my experience is, and this is why I wanted to bring up this topic,
Yeah.
is financially, I was in a lot of fear. And a lot of people I've talked to, their credit cards maxed out to the maxed out as they could get. And it was such a fear to me that I was just going to be losing everything, and I was going to be losing everything with my daughter, not being able to financially afford to live in this world somehow, some way. I was going to end up, I mean, I was close to being on the street,
Yeah.
and how am I going to deal with my daughter being on the street?
Right.
How is life going to be? I mean, I see people in the street living there and realizing that could have been me. If God hadn't, pulled me aside and said, hey, it's time to really take care of yourself and get, get a handle on this disease. You
Yeah.
know, I could have ended up being that person, you know, that didn't figure out, you know, how to work his finances, didn't get sober at the right time and work it out. You know, and I could have been very well on Skid Row.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just so thankful. I
Yeah.
mean, now that I think about it, it just kind of fired up that fear a little bit, and also fired up that gratitude
Awesome.
that I made it. I have made it. It's a yet.
Gratitude is a good thing, and that's gratitude will keep the yet where it should be.
Yeah, there's so many yets.
So something that I think is advantageous for today's person that's getting sober is that there is a ton of sobriety tracking applications out there that you can download on your phone, that track your days, that track all kinds of things. But one of the things that most of these applications will track is how much you're saving on not drinking or using.
You told me that.
Yeah, so you can go into your application and you plug in either how much you were spending a day or how much you were spending a week on your addiction, and you can also track how much you've saved since getting sober. Um, and that varies a lot, because it just depends on whether you're drinking a 30 pack of Bud, or drinking, for me, like I was a spoiled brat and I tend to drink top shelf liquor. And then,
With expensive accoutrements.
yes, like when I would fold in things like cocaine or something else along with them, when I first started getting sober, that was thousands of dollars a year that I was saving because I had a good job and
I realized I was too poor for that when I was in my early 20s.
Yeah. Well, I could I could afford to do all of that. Plus, I worked in the industry, so I had great access to it, and I would get the hookup places that I went and all of that. So that was thousands and thousands of dollars that I could save that I could spend. But what I kind of wrote down is yes, you can track your savings, and I think that's important, but that's all scalable, right? So more so, I thought it might be interesting for me to look at the percentage of the income that I was spending after my bare minimum needs were met. And realistically, like I was really thinking about this last night, and I was probably spending 60 to 70% of my after my bare needs were met, right? So food, gas for my car, insurance for my car, rent, things like that. Not even talking about like buying clothes and things like that, right? Like my survival needs. After that, I was probably spending 75% of what I had left on addiction. Like, not even thinking about clothes or anything else. So then when it did come time to, like, oh, the car needs tires, or, oh, well, like, my suits are getting worn out. I need to buy a new suit, or anything like that. Well, then it's like, okay, I've got to turn to credit cards, and I've got to turn to this, that, or the other. Or now like we're crunched for money and like I don't have a savings account even though I make really good money. Why? Because I'm spending all of my money on drugs and alcohol. I'm spending all of the additional money that I'm making off of a very good paycheck on drugs and alcohol. And I mean, this is where at a time when I was in a denial, like I would say, like jokingly, oh, I'm a high functioning alcoholic, ha ha ha, and blow it off.
Mm-hmm.
This is before I was even willing to admit that I had a problem, that I was an alcoholic or an addict. And so, looking at that, like how much money would that be today? How much I would own a house,
Yes, you would. easily.
It's insane for me to look at that. So really, spending as a percentage of my income, um, of my income after minimum needs were met, it was just massive. So today I don't have that job. I am, but I'm at peace. I'm in financial peace because I'm able to manage my money. I'm going to school. My wife and I aren't stressed out living paycheck to paycheck. We don't have we don't have a savings account. Things aren't like, we're not sitting here like sitting pretty, but we're not stressed out. We're in acceptance of where we are. We're managing our money. We're not just surviving. We're surviving comfortably, Now, that's not to say that, a job, the wrong thing happens and we could be in a pretty tough situation, but we would also find our way through it because we've got, God and our program, and we'll be okay, and we're in acceptance, and we're willing to go through whatever hits us. But
you're both talented human beings that aren't intoxicated.
We'll make it,
Yeah.
right? But that is not something that we would have had before.
Yeah.
And I'm comfortable. I'm much more comfortable with having money or not having money than I was before, because I just accept what I do have and work with what I do have, as opposed to really kind of falling into one of those scripts that I was talking about earlier, right? I'm not really. Money is a means to acquire things that I may need, but it's not this big ordeal. I work with what I have, and within that, I do what I need to do. Yep.
Nice.
So if you did just get sober and you're curious, you can download one of those apps and plug your information in, and it will. For me, it was shocking to see how quickly it built up, how much I was saving.
Yeah, I was doing it just because I wanted this plan, and I didn't do a great job saving for retirement, and I did nothing to save for my daughter's schooling, and luckily I was able to do that. And retirement, that's another thing. If unfortunately I did get injured, and so we had to stop working early. So we'll just see how that ends up going. But at least I was able to get some going. But yeah, that would have been nice to have had a device like that to actually keep track of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you are just getting sober, and you want to pick up something like that, because it'll be a good reminder for you. And any tool you can get for your tool belt, that's actually a tool, which is nice. It's not just a psychological or mental tool or anything like that. It's actually a tool. And there's not that many things you can get that's actually a tool.
Right. Yeah.
So that's kind of fun. So yeah, think about that.
Absolutely.
I like it.
If you feel like you're in a tough place right now and you're really struggling, the only advice that I have right now is keep your head up and keep working at it, because every day that you're sober is one day closer to it getting better. So.
And you'd be surprised at how many people will give you a break when you tell them that, hey, I'm working on my sobriety. I'm X amount of time sober, and I'm going to be making up for this. Just give me some time, please. And when they hear that you're trying to improve yourself, and that, I was comfortable saying that, I'm an alcoholic and I'm, ex sober. I'm really working on getting this better. Not all of you could do that. I did that, and it really helped me out a lot. But when you tell people that, you are really working at improving yourself, you don't have to say you're an alcoholic, but when you're improving yourself and this will all get better. So instead of just fearfully running away, but just advancing and standing up for yourself, you'll get a lot of slack to be able to make it up to people. You'd be surprised.
Yep. I'm looking at my questions, man. We touched on everything one way or another.
I know.
Do you have anything else that you had on your mind?
No, that was about it. This is going to be a short show.
That's all good. All right. Well, if you have any questions or thoughts about the show, or you need to reach out, all of our contact information will be in the description of the episode.
There'll be people at the phone banks right now ready to pick up. No, I'm kidding.
Rich, thank you as always. I appreciate your time, and I love you, man.
Love you too, buddy.
All righty. And thank you to our audience for being part of my sobriety today. Thank you so much for giving us some of your time. We really hope you got something out of today's episode. We would be honored if you would like and share the episode or leave a comment with your takeaways. Don't forget to subscribe to tune in to future episodes. Have a great day.